I finally watched Digimon Frontier. Digimon Frontier is an especially interesting season of the Digimon anime because it kinda tore up the rulebook, as far as Digimon had one. It's a very out there entry in the franchise, and I'd never watched it until very recently. It's strange because I remember having the Digivice toy from this generation of Digimon. I think I remember it being my favourite one as well. I was so desperate to get it, so that's a bit weird. But yeah, I never watched the anime season it was featured in, until now. But this was a unique ride. So let's settle in and have a chat about the 4th season of the Digimon anime, Digimon Frontier. And spoiler warning, there probably will be a fair few. The season kicks off with our goggle-headed leader for this season, Takuya, receiving a mysterious communication instructing him to go and board a train. Something about following your destiny. Curiosity takes him to the station, where he boards a train, along with a bunch of other kids, that ends up taking them to the digital world. Once they arrive, we're quickly confronted with a very different concept we'll be running with for this season of the anime. Instead of the kids each meeting their own partner Digimon, they are the partner Digimon. Spirit Evolution is the name of the game here. Each character will come to acquire a spirit, which they sort of merge with to become the protagonist Digimon in this season. This was a lot to get my head around. I guess it's not something that was completely foreign to me. I remember the Biomerge Digivolution from Digimon Tamers, but I guess with that, it was a one-off thing tagged alongside the regular formula. In Digimon Frontier, it's the whole formula. The children become the Digimon. And it makes it kinda hard for me to see those Digimon as Digimon at times, if that makes sense. I just sort of see them as superheroes. It took a while for me to get my head fully wrapped around it. It did make me wonder actually if I would have liked this season as a kid, because I was even pickier with TV shows then than I am now. If something didn't grab me within the first couple of episodes, I was clocking out, you know? And I did have to force myself through the first half a dozen episodes of Frontier to get to the point where I was like, okay, I think I'm up to speed and I'm in for the full ride now. So the human characters are even more integral than usual, you could argue. So let's see who we have here. First, there's Takuya, the goggle-headed leader type, we know the deal there. He's kind of brash, impulsive, strong moral compass. I feel like I could be describing most of the lead protagonists across the franchise here, but he does fit that profile pretty well. He goes through that tried and true arc of personal growth through increasing responsibility. Next, there's JP, who feels a bit like a comic relief character on first impressions. He comes across as quite goofy and clumsy, tries a bit too hard to be liked as well. But underneath that, he's actually a really dependable person. And you notice his confidence build quite a lot as the season goes on too. He finds his self-worth and becomes a vitally important part of the group. Zoe, the only girl in the main team. She's probably the most self-assured person in the group. She's confident, empathetic, sort of functions as the heart of the team, I want to say. But she can struggle with a bit of stubbornness at times too. So her arc is a lot about balancing out the two without losing the benefits her character brings. Koji, kind of a lone wolf kind of guy. You can feel an intentional distance between him and the rest of the group. But he is very skilled, very analytical, and he quickly establishes himself as one of the strongest in the group. He just needs to learn to let his guard down a little, and we learn more about why he's so guarded as the season goes on. And then Tommy, the youngest of the group. He fills that timid, gentle young boy role, and as you probably predict, he finds his bravery as time goes on. Aside from the leader protag, Tommy has probably the most typical one-note tropey characteristics written into his arc, but you could argue the group loses something without him. He does add a bit of an extra dimension in there. Probably the biggest grower among all the Digimon protag groups I've watched so far. I just don't think the characters hit the same as seasons before this. Maybe it's just the sheer weight put on their shoulders to be vibrant and memorable, seeing as we don't have partner Digimon walking alongside them. But I just didn't feel all that much towards any of these characters until way late into the season. Not terrible, just not that special either. So let's roughly break down the arcs of Digimon Frontier. It all kicks off with the Spirit arc, I guess that's what I'll call it. Because it's the introductory arc where our protags have freshly arrived in the digital world and we're getting introduced to the concept of spirit evolution, and then following the group as they each find their respective spirit. That's the thing these kids fuse with to become the Digimon. And not just any Digimon. The Digimon they become are part of a group called the Legendary Warriors, each one encompassing a different element. So for example, Takuya gets his one first, connecting with the Fire Spirit. So this first dozen episodes is a lot about exploring the digital world and finding these spirits. This is the part I had to really force myself to watch through, because it wasn't that exciting to me. I was already missing that tamer partner dynamic that I'm so used to seeing in Digimon. The protagonists themselves have a lot to try and make up for in that department, and I just don't think they're quite strong enough as characters to do that. Our first substantial villain comes in the form of Grumblemon, and we start to learn more about the conflict of this season. The digital world is being torn apart by Cherubimon. I remember him from Digimon the movie. He seems like a pretty common villain character that gets used. Him and his forces are harvesting code from Digimon and it's destabling the entire world. That's the setup this first arc gives us. Like I said, a fair bit to sit through. It's not the most instantly grabbing narrative for me, but I did push through in hopes things would heat up later on. We then transition into the Evil Warriors arc. On top of their spirits, the protags are now also discovering beast spirits, which allow them to turn into different, more powerful, but also more difficult to control Digimon. You've got to make sure you're making a few mental notes to keep up. Although I will say, Kendo Garurumon is absolutely my favourite Digimon design in this season. He looks so cool. There's a bunch of different stuff in play here. Takuya loses control of his spirit at one point. Tensions with Koji start heating up. The Evil Warriors coming into the picture is the major thing, including a new character in Koichi, who takes on the spirit of darkness, and has this real mystery about him. This is where I started to properly feel the tone of Digimon Frontier. Things are getting broodier now, and I liked that a lot. I actually started enjoying this series a fair bit here, because that shift intrigued me. There are real conflicts starting to happen now. Characters and backstories are being fleshed out. Next up is the Cherubimon arc. With all the spirits in the hands of the good guys, the group is storming towards Cherubimon. There's a few more backstory revelations in here. Koichi's real situation is revealed. He is Koji's twin brother, and there's a whole complicated thing around their parents, and their father abandoning their very ill mother. It's heavy stuff. Cherubimon, we learn, wasn't always evil. In fact, he was corrupted to be the way he is right now. And we follow this conflict all the way to the conclusion of defeating and re-purifying Cherubimon. If you like the battling parts of Digimon, this arc is where that itch will be scratched for you. It also has this feeling of finality to it. It wouldn't be out of place as the finale to the season, to be honest. But as it turns out, the real threat is still lurking in the shadows. The final arc is the Lucemon arc. Just as our heroes think they've saved the world, enter Lucemon, a fallen angel of sorts. Long been sealed away, but now back thanks to the data collecting efforts we've been seeing throughout the season. This is where everything the protags have been building and working for comes together all at once. They unlock the power to fuse together all of their spirits to eventually defeat Lucemon. It's a very bombastic, extra-dimensional finale to restore balance to the world. And then the kids can finally return home and get on with normal life again. There's something about these little ending slice of life montages for me. They evoke an emotion in me that I can't quite place. It's sort of similar to when you're walking out of a movie theatre. It's that feeling of, oh, the excitement's just suddenly over, and we're back to the mundane reality of the real world again. It's just a very melancholic feeling. I was torn after finishing Digimon Frontier. It's definitely not my favourite season so far. In fact, I'd probably say it's my least favourite so far. But then after the last episode, I found myself thinking, why am I kinda sad that it's ended? So the series definitely pulled me in some way. It left some impression. I hadn't consumed much opinion around this season of Digimon before watching it, because I wanted to go into it with as clean a mental slate as possible. But I did see enough to know that this season pulls fan opinion apart. I think the whole kids becoming Digimon thing was a bold concept to try, especially at the time when this came out. 2002-2003 was a point where a lot of these media properties started in the late 90s were at a sort of junction. People like me who consumed them from the very beginning we're cusping on our teenage years, and that's where a lot of people fall away from these kinds of things. So they're trying to keep people interested, and also pull a new generation in. In my opinion, this was probably the worst time to completely tear up the rulebook and turn Digimon into a more Power Rangers feeling thing. It was a very brave decision, but I'm not sure it really paid off like they wanted it to. I dropped off right after Digimon Tamers, so I would be really interested to hear the opinions of anyone out there who did watch Frontier directly after, in 2002-2003, because I think it did come out directly after. I think it was a matter of weeks between Tamers ending and Frontier starting. It has its charm in places, but I did have to really force myself to keep watching in places as well. I've said before that I want to re-watch the anime series subbed instead of dubbed at some point, because the dub is all I've watched until this point. Frontier is definitely one I need to watch in sub, because one thing I found very off-putting here was the reused voice actors from previous seasons. Significant ones as well. So for example, it was just kind of strange to hear the voice of Matt for Takuya, and the voice of Izzy for Lucamon. I couldn't disconnect them in my head, it felt strange. I kind of forgot how funny and unserious the voice acting is in the Digimon dub as well, until I watched a season I hadn't watched before. Ice Devimon's Christopher Walken impression had me rolling. Honestly, just search it up if you fancy a chuckle. Trailmon's exaggerated Bavarian accent, I think that's the right one, just overpowered any of the words he was actually saying. The characters just have the most extravagant voices, and that's all you can focus on at times. Digimon Frontier took a massive creative gamble. It was as if this was intentionally created to split the fandom in two. It's not a masterpiece, it's a bit clunky and inconsistent, but undeniably ambitious, and well worth a watch for the sheer novelty of it if nothing else. Personally though, I'm very much looking forward to something with the traditional Digimon Tamer partner format again for my next watch. But why don't you guys pepper the comments section with your own thoughts on Digimon Frontier? Is it a season of Digimon you got on board with? That's a clever little Trailmon reference. Or is it just not your cup of tea? Let us know, I'd be interested to hear what you think. While you're down there, if you could drop a quick like on the video, that's a huge help. Subscribe for more Digimon videos. Thanks so much for hanging out. I'll catch you in the next one.